YouTube, welcome to Thing a Day. Um, so today I'm gonna do a little different. Today I'm gonna do my top 10 favorite uh, pre or medieval and earlier weaponry. 10 is the caltrop. Caltrop comes from the Latin word calcatrapa, which means foot trap. It's been used since at least 331 BC. It's in the shape of a tetrahedron, so that at all times, like one point is pointing up. Um, it's been used throughout history, predominantly at the earlier points by the Romans, but it's been used throughout history to stop people, horses, chariots, war elephants, camels, and even has current applications in the military and police force, popping tires to stop cars. And fun fact with caltrops, um, it is actually a misdemeanor to have them in Illinois because of the Caterpillar strike in the 90s. Laborers were using them against police and other people, so it is a misdemeanor to have them in Illinois. Number 9 is the arbalest. The arbalest is a 12th century variation of the European crossbow. The prod on the arbalest, which is the bendy part on the crossbows, the prod was made out of steel, which gave it greater tensile strength than its wooden counterparts, which allowed it to shoot farther and do more damage when it hit. But crossbows in general were a huge improvement, just because you now could do just as much damage as a regular bow or even a longbow in some cases, with considerably less training time. 8 is the scythed chariot. Pretty straightforward. Someone just decided to take some scythes and stick them on the axles of a chariot. Um, while it's kind of neat, they really weren't that useful because people could just, split ranks around them and then reform behind them, so they weren't super effective. I mean, they were kind of scary, but once you kind of figured out you could just go around them, they weren't very effective anymore, and were kind of quickly faded out. 7 is kind of a weird definition of weapon, but number 7 for me is dead bodies. They, at least to my knowledge, were used a lot during sieges, and what they would do is they would take, dead animals or dead people, and they would just kind of catapult them back into the city, which kind of gave you a double whammy, because one, that's really demoralizing for people in the city to, like, have bodies of their, you know, the people they were fighting alongside earlier are now flying back at them, which is kind of demoralizing. And two, you can lace these bodies with all kinds of diseases, which will, then be spread all over the city and can cause all kinds of problems. Number 6 is the repeating crossbow. Invented by the Chinese as early as the 4th century BC. They're not as strong as your regular crossbow, but they can fire 10 bolts in 15 seconds as opposed to your arbalestier, which can do like 2 bolts per minute. So that's a huge improvement, but you sacrifice strength for speed. Either way, I think it's pretty cool. 5 is the ballista, which is basically a scaled up mounted crossbow that shoots projectiles up to 170 pounds. The technology for it was initially developed by the Romans, but the Greeks are the ones that turned it into a siege weapon. The Romans developed this thing called torsion springs, which are the kind of springs used in mousetraps. Those springs are what's used instead of just pulling back the string in a bow. These torsion springs and levers are used to pull back the bolt instead of that. So once the Romans developed these torsion springs, the Greeks were able to scale up their crossbows and create this ballista. Number 4 is the katar. The katar is a push dagger made in India, completely unique to South Asia. It is something of a status symbol at the time that it was used, sort of like the katanas were to the Japanese, and it was really used to kind of show off. Wealthy people would hunt tigers with these things in order to show off their bravery and fighting skills. 3 is the Tekko Kagi, which is another kind of odd thing that I ran across. It's basically a modification of the Japanese Tekko, which is is a thing that they used when fighting to add extra weight to your hand in order so you can apply more force when punching. Um, and ended up having similar functionality as like brass knuckles. Basically, it would either they would just have like a bit in their hand, or it would wrap around like a stirrup wrap around thing that would help protect the hand, but also add more force to a punch. And in this case, the Tekokage is a modification that has claws attached to it. Two is Archimedes' Claw, which I think is by far the most awesome and ridiculous weapon I've ever seen used, functionally. Archimedes' Claw was basically a giant grappling hook attached to a crane that was attached to the seaward walls of Syracuse. And what it did is, if a ship attacked this wall, the hook would drop down, hook the front end of the boat, and lift it up clean out of the water, which, if that didn't capsize the boat, dropping it back in the water usually would, and that would sink whatever the attacking boat. And was actually proven to work. We aren't sure if these actually existed, but it's been proven that they work in reality. So I think it's pretty awesome that these actually work. Number one is Greek Fire, which I think is about the most interesting of these weapons. And it was made by the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, and used primarily in naval battles, and actually won them a lot of really key naval victories throughout the time that it was used. However, we haven't been able to figure out how it's made, because the recipe for it was a closely guarded state secret, and that was lost with the Empire. And no one else at the time was able to figure out something with the same attributes, so neither have we. But we're pretty sure given the attributes of it, like its ability to burn and on top of water and the difficulty putting it out using water, we're pretty sure it's a petroleum-based product, possibly comparable to modern-day napalm. Alright, that is it for today, guys. If you have any other interesting ideas that you think could be cool for me to talk about, send me some on Twitter or Facebook. Send me a message there. If you want me to do more top 10s or lists of cool stuff, interesting stuff, be sure to hit some likes, and don't forget to subscribe if you like what you're watching, and I'll see you guys later.